Who is the overall better quarterback, Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers? Honestly, this question is a joke. Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback, and I'm gonna prove it with facts. Looking at Super Bowls first, Brady has 7 Super Bowl rings, whereas Rodgers only has 1. Well, video should be over, right? Wrong. This is the only thing Brady has over Rodgers. Next category. Passer rating. Passer rating tells you who is the better quality passer of the football. Rodgers is almost 7 points higher than Brady. For years, Aaron Rodgers has had the greatest passer rating of all time. Recently, he's been surpassed by Patrick Mahomes, but this is because Mahomes is just now meeting the bare minimum pass attempts required to qualify for the rankings. Give it a decade, and I bet his rating naturally goes down, and Rodgers ends up with the greatest ever. Touchdown to interception ratio. Brady's touchdown to interception ratio at 3-1 is pretty good, good enough to be 4th best of all time. Rodgers' touchdown to interception ratio is 4.5-1, by far the greatest of all time. Almost 5 touchdowns for every 1 interception. In second place is Patrick Mahomes, who's not even at 4, and he's played far less games, most of which with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, by the way. The best ratio Brady ever had over a 4-year span was 5-1 from 2014 to 2018. The best ratio Rodgers ever had over a 4-year span was 9-1 from 2018 to 2022. Touchdowns per game. Rodgers averages 2.1 touchdown passes per game to Brady's 1.9. Pass yards per game. Brady has Rodgers in pass yards per game with 268 yards to 258 yards. But watch their games. Pick any game at random. I bet my house you're most likely going to watch Brady throw short passes to rack up his yards, whereas you'll watch Rodgers spread the ball out. Tom Brady is a check-down merchant. Rush touchdowns per game. Rodgers has Brady beat in rushing touchdowns per game with 0.14 to 0.07. Rush yards per game. Rodgers has the edge over Brady in rushing yards per game at 14 yards for Rodgers and only 1.6 for Brady. Looking at these passing and rushing touchdowns per game, you might be thinking, these averages are basically the same. Brady and Rodgers are basically neck and neck. They're actually not. I want to make it clear how big the gap is between Rodgers and Brady on a touchdown per game basis. Brady has more quantity of games and touchdowns, but Rodgers has more quality games and touchdowns. As I've pointed out in my video on why Brady is the most overrated pro athlete of all time, 80% of Brady's total touchdown passes are passes shorter than 15 yards, whereas only 59% of Rodgers are. Everyone knows quality is better than quantity. Quality over quantity is a principle that everyone knows to be true, so there's no excuses. Rodgers is better. You'll notice that Brady has taken 131 more games than Rodgers to put up his superior stat totals. But given the rate at which Rodgers scores touchdowns, if he maintains that rate, he only needs 97 more games to pass Brady. 34 entire football games represents how much more skilled Rodgers is than Brady. I want to really show you the difference between Brady's 2.01 touchdowns and Rodgers' 2.22 touchdowns per game. If Brady and Rodgers had played the same amount of games, Brady has his 772 total, while Rodgers would top out at 850 touchdowns. Brady caught the lucky break, getting the starting job in New England after only 1 year of sitting on the bench when Drew Bledsoe got hurt. Meanwhile, Rodgers had to wait 3 full seasons, sitting behind a washed-up pick machine named Brett Favre, who refused to just hang it up already. If Rodgers would have played as many games as Brady, and if Brady would have only played as many games as Rodgers, Rodgers would have 850 total touchdowns, and Brady would only have 506. Of course, these are just hypotheticals. They don't reflect what's happened in reality. But at the same time, these hypotheticals are very useful. They show you the difference between 2.01 touchdowns per game and 2.22 touchdowns per game. Over time, there's a big difference. These hypotheticals show how much better Rodgers is than Brady on a per-game basis, and they show how greatly Brady has benefited from longevity and luck. Brady doesn't have more touchdowns because he's better than Rodgers. He has more touchdowns because he's got to play much longer. Let's really flesh this out by proving the same point with different players in a different sport. Robert Horry has 3,000 more points and 2,000 more assists than Andrew Bynum. But everyone knows Andrew Bynum was an all-around better basketball player than Robert Horry. On a per-game basis, Bynum averaged 5 more points and 3 more assists per game. Horry does not have better total stats because he's the better player. He has better total stats because he played 17 years to Bynum's 8. It's the exact same way with Brady and Rodgers. Brady has better total stats due to having 8 more full seasons than Rodgers. Rodgers is better on a per-game basis. Longevity can be an amazing thing if you have any talent whatsoever. This is why longevity is a great feature for LeBron James. But when it comes to a talentless 6th-round draft pick like Tom Brady, it's a mere distraction from the facts. It's a dollar store plastic goat mask. We can look at an average role player like Robert Horry and say, oh yeah, that's a decent role player. But when we look at an average role player like Tom Brady, oh no, you can't call him that. That's blasphemous. Tom Brady's football Jesus. INTs per game. Rodgers has Brady beat once again, throwing only 0.42 interceptions per game to Brady's 0.62. Completion percentage. Rodgers completes his passes at a higher rate than Brady, having 65.3 to Brady's 64.3. This is especially impressive given how much more Brady dinks and dunks. You would think Brady should have the higher completion percentage due to throwing far more short passes, but he doesn't, because he sucks. League MVPs. Rodgers has the edge once again, with 4 league MVPs to Brady's 3. Rodgers has the second most league MVPs in NFL history, trailing only Peyton Manning, another quarterback who's better than Tom Brady, by the way. But look at this. Look at how much better Aaron Rodgers' MVP seasons are than Brady's. These stats are Rodgers and Brady's MVP seasons averaged together. You see that Rodgers' MVP seasons dwarf Brady's MVP seasons. That comparison isn't even fair for Brady, but it gets even worse. Look at Brady's MVP seasons, his best seasons in his entire career, compared to Aaron Rodgers in the 2016 season when he didn't even win the MVP. This non-MVP season by Rodgers is better than Brady's 2010 MVP season, and it's better than Brady's 2017 MVP season. Would you believe that Matt Ryan won the MVP in 2016 over Aaron Rodgers with 6 less touchdowns? Rodgers wasn't even second in MVP voting. He came in 3rd, behind, you guessed it, Tom Brady. The guy who was suspended 4 games that season for cheating was the league MVP runner-up. Please kill me. First team All-Pros. Rodgers has 4 first-team All-Pro selections, whereas Brady only has 3. As I name these accolades like league MVPs and first-team All-Pros, note that Rodgers has more total MVPs and first-team All-Pro selections, and he's played far less full seasons. Brady played 21 full seasons in his career, while Rodgers has only played 13 full seasons. Tom Brady was an MVP and a first-team All-Pro for 14% of his full seasons. Aaron Rodgers was an MVP and a first-team All-Pro for 31% of his full seasons. I can't drive this home enough. The fact that Brady has 7 Super Bowl rings, but he only made first-team All-Pro 3 times in his entire career, should tell you that there was a lot more than just him contributing to his Super Bowl wins. Role player. That leads perfectly to my next category, first-team All-Pro teammates. In their careers, Tom Brady has had 25 first-team All-Pro teammates. Rodgers has only had 9. Brady's supporting cast is almost 3 times better than Rodgers. It's no wonder he's won more championships. Some people might argue that this is Rodgers' fault. If Rodgers would have took more pay cuts like Brady did, he could have had more talent around him. If this argument is true, it should follow that Brady's All-Pro teammates made more money than Rodgers' All-Pro teammates. This argument is wrong because Rodgers' teammates actually made more money than Brady's. Brady's All-Pro teammates made a total of $63.5 million in their All-Pro seasons. That's $2.5 million per player. Rodgers' All-Pro teammates made a total of $55.7 million in their All-Pro seasons. That's $5.6 million per player. Brady's supporting cast is almost 3 times bigger than Rodgers' supporting cast. But Rodgers' supporting cast made over twice as much money than Brady's supporting cast? How lucky can Tom Brady get? Everyone knows Brady's luck on the surface. Stuff like the Tuck rule, the Malcolm Butler interception, Atlanta choking a 25-point lead, the Rams putting up 3 points in a Super Bowl, the New England Patriots winning 3 entire Super Bowls before they finally got busted in Spygate. I just slaughtered 6 of Brady's rings in 15 seconds. But anyway, this supporting cast salary crap that I'm talking about now is stuff that no one ever thinks about, and Brady is lucky in that too. This is what I'm talking about when I say Brady isn't the GOAT. He doesn't earn anything. Everything, in every way, is handed to him. 40-plus yard touchdown passes. In 21 full seasons, Brady has thrown 42 40-plus air yard touchdown passes. In 13 full seasons, Rodgers has thrown 66 40-plus air yard touchdown passes. Hail Marys. In their entire careers, Brady has completed 1 Hail Mary. Rodgers has completed 3. Longest air yard pass. Aaron Rodgers has completed a 71 air yard pass. Tom Brady's longest air yard pass was 65 yards in the first Super Bowl versus the Giants, and that pass was an incompletion. Top running speed. Aaron Rodgers even runs faster than Tom Brady. Rodgers' 40 time at the combine puts his running speed at 17.37 miles per hour. Brady's 40 time at the combine puts his speed at 15.83 miles per hour, the second slowest 40-yard dash of all time by a quarterback. Just to put this into perspective, to really show you the difference in speed, if Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady lined up and raced in a full lap around the planet Earth, Rodgers would finish the race 7 entire days sooner than Brady, because that's totally a legitimate way to assess their speed. Have I said enough? Have I given you enough facts? Have I convinced you with this monumental skyscraper of evidence that Aaron Rodgers is better than Tom Brady? If not, you're a nerd. If you do agree with me, then congratulations. You know how it feels to be depressed. Because despite the 15 items I listed that Rodgers is better than Brady in, most people only care about the rings. People who think Tom Brady is the GOAT never think about the real Tom Brady. They don't think of a guy who only throws 2 touchdowns a game. They don't think of a guy who threw 0 touchdowns in a Super Bowl that he won. They don't think of a guy who dinks and dunks and over 60% of his passing yards come after the catch. They don't think of a guy who only averaged 1 touchdown per game in 7 of his Super Bowl games, whereas Joe Montana averaged 3 touchdowns per game in his 4 Super Bowl games. People don't think about this stuff when they think of Tom Brady, and they don't listen to those of us who do recognize these facts. They just dismiss it by calling us Brady haters. Now, let's look at some jaw-dropping facts. Check out these stat lines. In these stat lines, you see that Brady and Rodgers both have 6 touchdown passes, but Rodgers has the higher completion percentage and an outrageously higher passer rating. But what are these stat lines that I'm showing you? The stat line you see for Brady is from 5 of his Super Bowls combined. That's right, you buttholes. Tom Brady put up 6 total passing touchdowns in 5 of his Super Bowl games. The stat line you see for Rodgers is from 1 game. 1 game. Aaron Rodgers in 1 game outperformed 5 of Tom Brady's Super Bowl games put together. And it gets even worse. In that 1 game, Aaron Rodgers only played in the first half. Aaron Rodgers did in 30 minutes more than Brady did in 300 minutes. And that's fitting, because Rodgers is at least 10 times more talented. In the 2020 Super Bowl versus the Kansas City Chiefs, Tom Brady threw for a total of 72 air yards. In the entire game, Brady had 72 air yards. In the 2015 matchup versus Detroit, Aaron Rodgers threw for 71 air yards in 1 pass. 1 pass from Aaron Rodgers is practically equal to an entire Super Bowl game from Tom Brady. I have given you 16 criteria. This is the most comprehensive and conclusive way to address this question. 4 of the criteria are in the accolades category. Rodgers is better in 3 of the 4. 8 of them are in the stats per game category. Rodgers is better in 7 of the 8. And 4 of them are in a pure talent category. Rodgers is better in all 4 of these. Are you starting to see why I think this debate is a joke? There is 0 argument for Brady. There's nothing to debate. Aaron Rodgers is objectively, ridiculously, and downright atrociously better than Tom Brady.